Hello everyone, this is Space Hunter Nebula and I'm returning with part 4 of What If King Piccolo Won. Right now, I'm sick, so, if I sound weird, that's why, but I still want to get the video out anyway, so. When we last left off, Raditz, under King Cold's command, had returned to Earth to battle the Demon Namekian army. However, what he didn't expect was for them to get so strong in the meantime, for you see, King Piccolo himself wasn't even needed in the battle. Drum and Piano were actually able to defeat the Ozaru Raditz by themselves, though it was done with a lot of difficulty. Months later, King Cold came to Earth, but Trunks arrived in his time machine, putting an end to the Space Emperor. He is quite confused by this reality, considering Goku isn't there, even though he totally should be, and honestly he believes the changes are his fault. He quickly tells King Piccolo the location of Dr. Gero's lab, given to him by his mother, and then he tosses him the heart virus cure capsule, telling him to give it to Goku. Trunks then leaves. If Trunks is confused, King Piccolo is absolutely baffled, but he does take Trunks' advice, and he, along with his army, went to Dr. Gero's lab and they destroyed it. This led not only to the death of Gero and his androids, but also Bulma and Dr. Briefs as well. Good going, Trunks. Several more months pass, and King Piccolo decides to expand his empire into the stars, taking along Nappa and Raditz, and recapturing the Cold Empire for themselves. And on that unfortunate note, we will be getting back into the story of What If King Piccolo Won. After the battle with Raditz, the destruction of Gero's laboratory, and becoming Earth's temporary emperor, Drum begins to train King Piccolo's inner circle even harder than before. King Piccolo's inner circle gets to be about 30k or 20k depending on if they were born stronger or born weaker. Drum really wants to make them into something, and he does not want to be threatened by some monkey man, some wind-up robots, and especially not that Saiyan general. In fact, he wants to utterly humiliate them by making the Demon Namekians all stronger than them. King Piccolo and the Saiyans are out in space taking down or recruiting the remnants of the Cold Army. They wouldn't really have any opposition other than Banyu. She was in the Ginyu Force at some point, so her power level could be anywhere from 3,000 to 120,000. And I think it's fair to say that she's at 60 to 80k, we'll split it down the middle and say 70k. In this instance, since she has a power level of 70k, she would be able to give King Piccolo and the Saiyans a really tough fight, but, even though she's stronger than them, it's still 3-on-1, so I think they would be able to defeat her. Banyu seems smart, so she would accept her defeat, and she would join them on their quest instead of getting killed. Things weren't really fun under Frieza and Cold anyway, so this couldn't be that much worse. Hopefully. It takes 3 years, but they take over all of the Cold Empire. All of the Cold Empire soldiers are either dead or under King Piccolo's command. Now, notice how I said 3 years? This would be where the androids would appear. Except they wouldn't appear because in this timeline they have been destroyed, as we went over in the last part and in the recap. The whole lab got destroyed, everyone there, everything there, gone. Kablooey. Even Cell. However, there is another of Dr. Gero's creations who would show up, this being future Cell. Now, Cell would be extremely confused by what he sees when he arrives in the present, because he would see Demon Namekians flying everywhere, whether it be with their wings or with their ki, and he has no idea what's going on there. But then Cell realizes that these power levels are actually quite strong. It seems that they would make for a great boost of energy. I don't want to mince words, but a lot of Demon Namekians are going to get killed here. Seeing their power, Cell would want to absorb as many of them as possible. So, King Cold's DNA is inside of Cell, so Drum would at least be able to sense that energy. But he also senses the energy of Tien, whom he killed many years ago. This is confusing to Drum, but he does know with King Cold around, the planet, or rather King Piccolo's army, is probably in danger. He rushes over to the scene where Cell is absorbing countless Demon Namekians using his tail to stab into them and drink them. I'm sorry to say this, but Drum is not strong enough at all to face Cell. Yeah, Cell is weakened from just recently awakening, because, that's how it worked in the original, but he's still at least on 19's level. Drum commands Piccolo's inner circle to come to East City and help him take down the monster. They all rush to his aid and they all battle Cell, but, easily imperfect Cell takes down each and every single one of them. He notes that these ones are actually far more powerful compared to the others. He's aware that they're all Namekians, and he says as much to them, which they don't understand. Well, in this situation, the name of their species is the least of their worries. After 3 years of training, Drum is at a power level of 300k, so he doesn't stand a chance. The stronger of Piccolo's inner circle are at 230k. The others are 150,000, which is, pretty strong for the average fighter in the dragon world, but they're not going to do anything to Cell. The only reason they're even alive is because he's toying with them. Imperfect Cell would be beating each and every single one of them into the ground, taking pleasure in their pain. One of Piccolo's sons, who we'll call Ukulele, calls Drum over, telling the rotund demon that he can't go on and to take his energy. Drum sadly accepts Ukulele's offer, taking in his energy, but what he doesn't expect is to get so much stronger, because Ukulele, in his dying effort, accidentally fuses into Drum. Now, as I said, the stronger of King Piccolo's inner circle are at 230k. That's 230k, and then 300k for Drum, so that's 530k in total. Then we times that by 5, because, this is how fusion works. That gets Drum to a power level of 2.65 million, which is quite an increase, but obviously not enough to do anything to Cell. Drum realizes what just happens, and he begins going around to the dying demon Namekians, asking them to fuse into him, like Ukulele just did. Some of them are absolutely going to die from their injuries, so they just outright agree to it. It's the only possible way King Piccolo's army could even stay in power against this monster. We'll say that 3 of King Piccolo's stronger soldiers fuse into Drum, and 3 of his weaker ones as well. Doing some quick calculations here, for the stronger soldiers fusing into Drum, we have 230k times 3, we get 690k. We add that to the 2.65 million and multiply by 5, that gets us to 16,700,000. Then for the weaker demon Namekians, we multiply 150k by 3, which is 450k. We add that to the 16.7 mil, and we get 17,150,000. We multiply that by 5, and we get 85,750. This power level is over half of Frieza's power, but that's obviously not enough to fight Cell, and Drum still knows it. Cell increases his power to be around 90 million, so he can toy with Drum some more. Drum sends a telepathic message to the others to come and merge with him, which they agree to do, as Drum is their current emperor and they serve his every request. A bunch of demon Namekians come, and Cell tries to ground them, but there's so many of them that he can't possibly shoot them all down. Hundreds of demon Namekians come, and they merge into each other before they come, and they merge into Drum, making him even more powerful. In the end, Drum has fused with about 10% of King Piccolo's army in his battle with Cell, and finally he's at a level where he can contest the bug monster. I know this whole time people have probably been questioning, but let's put this into perspective. King Piccolo, at this point, probably has millions of soldiers. Millions. Imagine that. Now, if Namekian fusion is the addition of power, as well as a multiplier of 5, and by all accounts, this is probably a low ball, considering it's 10% of the whole army. But, I don't want to make Drum too powerful, because that would be crazy. So we're keeping him at a lower level than he should probably be. We'll just say he's getting fusion fatigue or something, which is not a thing, but we're making it up to explain why he's weaker than it would logically make sense for him to be. The other demon Namekians in Piccolo's inner circle begin to absorb the lower level demon Namekians as well, doing this until they reach a power level of around 10 million. Between them all, Drum and the inner circle demons have absorbed about a quarter of King Piccolo's army. The battle then continues, lasting for hours between Drum and Cell. Drum is winning since he has better combat experience, and he keeps going for major points on Cell's body, so he'll keep having to regenerate. Meanwhile, Cell continues to try fighting Drum, but the others start taking pot shots at him with their Ki Blast, which doesn't do a whole lot, but it angers Cell, and he begins to charge a massive Kamehameha beam. Drum and the others see this, and they start charging up a massive attack of their own, because they use Piccolo's beam cannon. Not the special beam cannon, but the beam cannon that King Piccolo has. It's a different attack. A bunch more demon Namekians get summoned, and they give their energy without fusing, and Drum and the others unleash their own massive blast to compete with Cell's Kamehameha wave. The beam clash would go on for a little while, but one of the inner circle demons would have been able to latch onto Cell's back and self-destruct, which wouldn't hurt him, but it would distract him for long enough to lose focus and lose the struggle as a result. A huge yellow beam comes towards Cell, and though he tries to pour in more of his energy, it's too late for him. That little split-second distraction was all it took for him to get on the losing end of things, and Cell's attack is enveloped, followed by him. Cell screams in rage and agony as the collective ki of the demon Namekian army tears him apart, eviscerating every single cell of his body. It would be an understatement to say that this leaves every single living demon Namekian there completely exhausted. especially Drum, who'd been doing all the fighting, but he kept the planet safe, all in the name of his father, the true Emperor, King Piccolo. And he knows for certain that this entire battle would prove, once and for all to his father, that he, Drum, is worthy of being second in command again. But now Drum is even stronger than his father. In fact, the whole remaining inner circle is. But they're loyal, and they're absolutely ready to submit to him when he returns. Speaking of returning, now that the 3 long years are over, King Piccolo, Nappa, Raditz, and Banyu return to take a nice little break on planet Earth for a while, before they begin to set up intergalactic transportation on this planet, to link it to the other space demon planets. When they sense Drum's energy, they are absolutely astonished, because how did he do that? They come to him, and Drum bows down to King Piccolo, telling him what happened to cause this increase in power, and regaling the tale of Cell. King Piccolo is completely surprised by this, and he's a little bit upset that a quarter of his army is just gone, but his sons are also powerful now that it doesn't even really matter to him. If anything, this makes King Piccolo feel like he's antiquated. Like he's an antique. Like all his sons have left him behind. For years they were the ones behind him, but now it was he who was behind. He always felt this way to a certain extent, since Nappa had surpassed him, and then later on down the line, Raditz surpassed him in space, but even his sons? This whole thing just made him feel unneeded. He could clearly see that if he were to perish, his planet would still be in good hands with Drum. He would ruminate over it for a couple of weeks, and he comes to a decision that will irrevocably change the rest of this story. He is going to retire as Earth's Emperor. He has been Earth's ruler for so long that he has become obsolete. He's pretty much the weakest among them, so he'd decide to give rulership of Earth to Drum, while giving rulership of the Space Demon Empire to Nappa. Nappa would reject this, and he would say that he still wants to remain as King Piccolo's bodyguard, so King Piccolo reluctantly just gives the Space Demon Empire to Raditz, who he really doesn't like as much, but it's like, if Nappa's not gonna do it, then someone has to. And King Piccolo obviously doesn't want to. Nappa and King Piccolo would, of their own volition, decide to just live in a kind of big hut, and they would live together like bros. Nappa and King Piccolo wouldn't really train anymore though, just enough to keep their power level at the same level that it already is. King Piccolo gets into music and Earth literature, and he actually likes it quite a bit. As for what kind of music he'd probably like, old people stuff. Classical music, and the Beatles, and 60s music and whatever. Earlier than that as well. He probably likes Al Bowley. Nappa also gets into Earth culture more, getting into music, though he's more into rock and roll. But like old people rock and roll, so like Metallica and AC/DC, middle-aged people stuff. Progressive rock as well, but other than music, Nappa also gets into woodworking. Sometimes he'd use his woodworking tools, or other times he'd just make stuff with his bare hands since his power would lend well to that. King Piccolo and Nappa also have some shared hobbies as well, like bowling, because they're old. And to be honest, King Piccolo's interest in human culture actually has him regretting killing all those humans a little bit. Not because it was wrong. King Piccolo does not care about that. He just cares about the fact that because of him, a lot of stuff would just never be created. Stuff that he would maybe like, which, more so on the literature side of his interests anyway, because classical music does not get made anymore. But luckily for King Piccolo, Drum still doesn't plan to destroy any more divisions. So, if any good books come out that would interest King Piccolo, he would maybe be able to read them. And no, this is not King Piccolo and Nappa turning good, they're just taking an interest in some of human culture. It's like how Omni-Man views humans as amusement. They kind of view humans the same way, except instead of viewing them as amusement, they view their creations as the amusement, which is what is intended, for the most part, other than art, which is intended to provoke emotion or thought in some sort of way. And with the retirement of our demonic emperor, this is where we'll leave the story off for now. If you like this video, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel. I am out. Have a good morning, have a good night, have a good afternoon, whatever time it is for you, and goodbye.